thanks for stopping by. Today, we're going to check out the Kimber Pro Carry II. Not just a regular review, but I'm going to walk you guys through how to completely disassemble this pistol. Let's head over to the bench and get started. All right, y'all. Let's get started with one of my favorite subjects, and that is the 1911. We're going to take this little guy today. We've got this Kimber Pro Carry II. I'm going to show you how to completely disassemble it correctly. Let's jump in. The first thing we're going to do, remove the magazine, put it to the side. Make sure the pistol's unloaded. We're good to go there. Next, we're going to remove our slide. If you look closely, there's a little notch right here. This is your slide stop notch, the rear one. This little small notch right here, we're going to line that up with the back of our slide release lever. I'll show you what I mean. Line it up like this, pull down, and push out. See how it slid right out? Now we'll just pull that off and ease our slide back forward. Now the slide's ready to be removed from the pistol. So next, just push the slide forward and the slide's off. We'll set our frame to the side. We're going to work on the slide first. This is a bull barrel model with a one-piece guide rod. So the first thing we're going to do with our slide is we're going to remove the guide rod assembly. There's a few different designs with a one-piece guide rod, but the majority of them have a hole located in the guide rod somewhere that we're going to put a paper clip or a little piece of stainless wire through. This one does have a hole. See it right here hiding under the spring. You can barely notice it. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to grab the back of our guide rod. We're going to push it forward until we expose that hole. We're going to slip our wire in. And notice how the wire captures the bushing on the front around the guide rod. And then that's going to allow us to just pull the guide rod assembly out and set it to the side. The next thing we're going to remove is our barrel. First thing you want to do is take your link and roll your link all the way forward. Unlock the barrel, push it forward, and unlike a lot of your semi-automatic pistols, the 1911 barrel slides right out the front. Super simple and easy. All right, now we're going to dive into all of the guts in the back. From the rear, we've got our extractor, our firing pin stop, our firing pin, and then on the underside, we have our firing pin safety. We're going to remove all of these pieces. I'll walk you through the process next. So the first thing we're going to do is take a small punch. We're going to depress the firing pin and the firing pin stop at the same time. If you just try and depress the firing pin, notice how it doesn't move. You have to depress the little firing pin safety in here to get the firing pin to depress all the way in. So we've got that in. Roll it around where you can see. And now we're just going to slide our firing pin stop off. I like to keep my thumb over the back of the firing pin to prevent it from launching itself into space. All right, now we're to this point. You can see it's retained in here. Put our finger over the top and depress the firing pin safety. And that releases your firing pin, and you can remove the firing pin and the firing pin spring. All right, next we have our extractor. We'll take a small flathead screwdriver. There we go. Focus where you need to focus. I'll slide that into that notch here where your firing pin stop goes on the extractor. Once again, I've got my finger over the safety here, the striker safety, so it doesn't launch itself into space. And it's hanging up on the striker safety a little bit. Put the screwdriver down. Come on, little guy. There we go. Just a little wiggling and twisting, and we've got our dirty extractor is out. Put that to the side. Now you notice here the striker safety is still in the slide. We're not going to remove that today because I don't want to drift out the rear sight. But normally, if you have to remove your striker safety, if it breaks or whatever, you need to replace it. What you'll do, you'll loosen this little Allen screw in your rear sight. You'll drift the rear sight off. And your striker safety and the striker safety spring are retained under your rear sight, and they'll come out the top and go back in on the top. It looks like a little L-shaped piece. It goes up and across, and there's a spring in it. It's pretty quick and simple to remove, but you do have to remove the rear sight, which we're not going to do today. We're done with the top end. Now we're going to move into disassembly on the bottom end. So as long as I've got the pistol apart, I'm going to go ahead and clean everything up. As you can see from my fingers, it's kind of dirty. So we're just going to wipe all the parts up. I won't show all that on the camera because that's kind of boring. And here's a quick shot of everything that came out of the top end of the pistol. We've got our guide rod assembly, which includes our guide rod, recoil spring, and guide rod bushing. We have our firing pin spring, firing pin, extractor, our slide assembly, the barrel, firing pin stop, and our slide stop. All right, let's move on to the frame. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to remove the grips. This one has a set of hex screws that hold the grips on. So we'll just start up here on the top one. Loosen that little guy. Loosen that little guy. If you don't have any of these little T-handles, let's see if I can get it to focus. Notice how it's got the little ball head on the end here. And then just a regular, come on, you can do it. Move that. Anyway, it's just got a regular hex head on this end. It's got the ball end on this end, T-handle. It makes removing hex screws super easy. So I picked up this set at Harbor Freight. If I break it, I'm not out a ton of money, but these work really well. All right, back to our regularly scheduled program. Grips off, and you can see the grips are held in place by the screw, and then there's also this little rubber O-ring that normally goes over the screw. And it looks like both of these rubber O-rings here got pushed through the grips into the grip bushings. All right, grip panel number one, set that to the side. And we'll remove the grips from the left side of the pistol. Sometimes the grip panel will get stuck. If it does, flip it over, reach through, and push it out from the back side. Same way with this one. Little rubber washers push through, so we'll put those back on the screws, put the screws back in the grips. Just makes it easier to keep up with everything later when we reassemble. Reassemble, not reassembly. All right. Next thing we're going to remove is going to be the thumb safety. This one doesn't have an ambi, so it's just a regular left side thumb safety. Pretty simple and easy. Leave your hammer cocked. put your thumb over the back of the safety here, as if you notice, you've got a little detent on the front. There's another detent in the back here, and this has a spring in it. So when you go to take the safety out, if the spring isn't kinked inside of here, this entire assembly can launch itself into space and you'll be ordering parts. So when you put your thumb over the back like this, even if it shoots out, it's going to hit your thumb and you're not going to lose it. So there's a notch in here. You raise this up and you can push through on the other side just a little bit. You'll feel it when it hits that notch. Right. That's where it's going to come out. If it's pressed all the way in, see how it comes all the way up, all the way down. Push on your rear pin just a little bit with your finger while you're wiggling the lever up and down, and the safety will drop into the notch that it needs to be to come out. So we've got a little gap now. So now we'll put our thumb over the back, wiggle the safety, and a little pull, and out it comes. And as you can see, our detents, they stayed in place. Now I've got our safety out. We'll set that to the side for now. And the detent and spring assembly comes out. Now if you notice, the spring is kinked. See that little kink right here? That is not damaged. The spring assembly right here is actually kinked like that for a reason, and that reason is, like I was talking about, is to keep this assembly from launching itself into space when you take the safety out. This is something that a lot of manufacturers do just to keep the end user from losing these parts. Next, we're going to remove the mainspring housing and the beaver tail grip safety. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to depress the beaver tail. We're going to capture our hammer, pull the trigger, and ride the hammer forward. That's going to relieve spring tension out of our mainspring housing. Then we're going to drive this pin in the bottom here out. Notice how it's dished on one side and a rounded head on the other. Drive it out from the dish side from left to right, or whatever side the dish is on. Okay, there's our mainspring housing pin. Wipe that off, set it to the side. Now we're going to remove our mainspring housing. Once again, put your thumb on the bottom. Some of these are captured. This one is. Notice there's a little pin right here. That pin holds your mainspring housing assembly together with your detent at the bottom, the spring in the middle, and another cap at the top. So this one, pull our punch out, set it to the side. We'll slide the mainspring housing off. Don't be intimidated by all this stuff in here. I'm going to walk you guys how to take all of that out and how to put it all back together. There's our grip safety off. So now we can see a lot of parts in here. We've got our sear spring, hammer strut, hammer, and then as you can see, there's a sear and disconnector and some other parts up inside here. And then from the top side up here, we've got our little pin that depresses the striker safety or the firing pin safety in the slide. So we'll start by removing all of this stuff. We've got our sear spring, which is stuck a little bit. A small screwdriver, relieve some pressure. Pop that little guy out, set it to the side. Next, roll your hammer strut up, get it out of the way. And this top pin here, this holds your hammer assembly in, so we're going to take that out. It just slides right out. Give that a little push, and if you notice, it's got a flared head on the left side. Turn it around so it actually looks like it's on the left. There we go. Flared head's on the left, and when we pull that pin out, if you notice, there's a little recess that this flared head here sets into. We've got those parts out. We'll pull our hammer out, set it to the side, hammer pin, put that one to the side. And now we'll take out our sear pin. Now, let's see if I can show you up in here. Inside here, we've got our disconnector, which is here. You get something a little finer to point with. The disconnector, which is here. The sear is here. And then our firing pin safety is held in place here on the right. So I'm going to try and take these out one piece at a time so you guys can actually see how they go in there. We'll take this pin out. We'll find that later. Next, we're going to take out the sear. Here's the sear. Roll that little guy out. There we go. You can see what that looks like. Dirty. Now you can see the disconnector. This is your disconnector. So we're going to take the disconnector out. There we go. Put that to the side. And now you can see over here on the side, this is your firing pin safety detent, plunger, or whatever you want to call it. It goes up into the frame here and then on the side here. Check this out. I'm going to pull that little guy out and I'm going to leave it laying on the side of the frame here, just like it came out of the gun, so you can see what it looks like. There you go. See that? That is the proper orientation to put this pin back in place. We'll roll it on out of the way. And then you can see up inside here the hole where it goes. We got the hole up here. That's where your little detent goes for your striker safety. Cool. Easy enough, right? Next, we're going to take out our magazine catch. Okay. This one's got an Allen wrench. Some of them are Torx, some of them are flathead screws, but they all come out the same way. We'll put our wrench in, and then we're going to depress the magazine release button on this side. And as we depress the magazine release button, we're going to put a little counterclockwise pressure on that screw until it, there it goes, boop, and that pops right out. The counterclockwise pressure, you see the little foot right here, this is what catches and holds it in the frame. And the counterclockwise pressure rolled that from here back into this notch to retain it so we can take it apart. Now we'll disassemble this, roll it back, and then there's our spring and our retaining piece that holds the safety in the frame. We'll set those to the side. Next, we'll take out the trigger. Now it's been freed because we removed the magazine release, and you just push the trigger with your finger here and pull it right out the back of the pistol. This one's a pretty nice trigger. I like some of the features with it. You've got an over travel stop on the rear here, and then you notice these two little wings on the sides here, and here. These are pre-travel stops, so you can actually set how far the trigger is to the rear before it engages with the sear, and then how far the trigger goes to the rear after it breaks with your over travel stop. A lot of nice features with this trigger. So now we've got our frame stripped. Only the two things I'm not going to remove today, we're not going to remove the grip screws, and we're not going to remove the ejector. If you have to take the ejector out, it's a 1/16 roll pin right here. Pin does go all the way through. I drift it from left to right. Drop your roll pin in there, drift that pin out, and then you can pull your ejector out of the top for replacement. The grip screw bushings, I normally don't remove these unless one's damaged, cross-threaded or whatever, and I have to replace it. These are supposed to be staked in place And there's two different ways companies do it. These look like they're Loctited, but the mil spec for these is down inside here. They also stake this on the back side to keep these bushings from coming out. I actually prefer Loctite over staking them, just because if the bushing ever backs out and it's staked, it's going to wreck the threads in the frame. Where the Loctite, you can take these out, you can clean the threads up, and they're easy to replace. All right, now we're going to disassemble the mainspring housing. I'll show you guys how to do that. What I like to do is take a larger punch. You can see you've got this little piece down inside here. You've got the pin that retains everything. I like to take a larger punch that'll go in there to where I can press and relieve pressure off of this top pin. And what I do is I'll take my bench block, I'll put my punch in there, and I'll set the mainspring housing over the top of that and put downward pressure on it, and then take my punch and push out this pin right here. There we go. I know that wasn't super easy for you guys to see. I'll try and be a little more detailed when we reassemble it. But you can see your parts that came out. The pin here, it has a flared head on it as well. The flared portion comes in from the back side and matches the recess in there. And then we've got our mainspring itself with your detent. The little pointy piece goes to the bottom, and that actually tips out that hole here, and that helps to hold your pin in place. There we go. See that little guy right there, how it pops out? So that one goes to the bottom. And then the top one here, your hammer strut drops into this. You can see the little groove in there where the hammer strut's already been riding in that. So we'll take this out, set all this to the side. So here's a quick overview of everything that we just took out of our frame. Mainspring housing, mainspring retaining pin, our mainspring pins, and then this little pin here that holds this assembly together. Beaver tail grip safety, thumb safety, detents and spring, and then our disconnector, our sear, our fine pin safety, and the pin that holds that assembly together. The frame, obviously. Magazine catch spring, magazine catch detent, trigger, hammer pin, and the part that causes a lot of people issues, the sear spring. Thanks for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to disassemble your 1911. Remember to like, subscribe, and ring the bell below for notifications. See you next time. Miserable and complaining, it's so hot. I almost broke a sweat. I can't hold on to the gun today. My hands are sweaty.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm glad he's not doing that.
Yeah.